All right, it's Sage Wanderer coming at you from my van down by the river. Or the lake, some people think. It's funny. Okay, so, I am talking a lot of doom and gloom on here. My mantra has been pray for peace, but prepare for war. I've been warning you about what's coming, what I think is coming. And, it's getting through to some of you, and there's some people out there that are seeing these videos, becoming alarmed, and deciding that they are woefully unprepared for even a power outage. So, I thought I would just touch briefly on what you can do as a brand new entry level prepper. I don't even like that term. For me, it's just logical to prepare for things that could happen. The Department of Homeland Security and FEMA have produced informational brochures and articles online lately that pretty much implies that they believe everyone should be a prepper. That you can't really rely on other people to take care of you. You need to be responsible for taking care of yourself and your loved ones, even in the event, especially in the event of unforeseen circumstances. You have to look no further than what's happened down in Houston, what's happened in Puerto Rico, what's happening now in California with the fires, to know that you got to be prepared for what comes down the pathway, whatever comes at you. So I thought I would just touch on the entry-level basics of preparing. Now, if you guys, most of you guys on here are going to be, this is going to be old information to you. But, hey, you might find it interesting just to see what I recommend. So, I try to start with what they call the rule of three. So, the rule of three kind of goes like this. It takes 3 minutes without air for you to die. It takes 3 hours without shelter in some circumstances for you to die. It takes 3 days without water for you to die, and 3 weeks without food for you to die. And so I kind of look at it in that matter of importance. Obviously breathing is important, so I try to stay breathing. You know what I'm saying? And really, that's where firearms come in, and martial arts, and bladed weapons, and bear spray, and anything else you can put around you to help you stay breathing. Know what I'm saying? I won't talk about that side of it. There are so many bona fide experts out there, people that I've gotten my information from, that are more than capable of schooling you on how to protect yourself. So 3 hours without shelter. So, your home, your apartment is your shelter. When you're in your car is your shelter. But you should be prepared for if you have to walk away from your car or you have to walk away from your home. So you should at least have a tent. A tent is just a small insurance policy that keeps the rain off your head. Once you get a little more schooled in wilderness survival, you'll learn that really all you need is a tarp. 9 feet by 9 feet. Unless you've got a lot of people you're taking care of, is more than enough to keep you sheltered. Part of shelter is fire. You should know how to build a fire. And now listen up, people. That means build a fire without using lighter fluid, okay? So you should know how to do things like make a feather stick. I won't go into that, but look it up. You should have at least 3 or 4 ways to make a fire in your house, kept in your house, kept in your car. And one of the benefits of being a smoker, I know the downside is the breathing thing. I want to stay breathing. But, I have fire on hand at all times. I have a Bic lighter or 2 or 3, or probably your Bic lighter in my pocket at any given moment. So then the next thing is 3 days without water. So there's been stories of people who died of dehydration while laying next to a stream, river, or pond because they were afraid to drink the water. So here's the thing about drinking contaminated water. You should probably go ahead and do it if you have no other choice, no way of purifying it. Go ahead and drink it anyway, because it's better to get sick than it is to just expire from not drinking. You have to drink. Also, don't drink your own urine. It has the reverse effect. It will not help you at all, and it'll just make you sick, make you worse. So that boils down to this: purifying water. Most, if not all, water in the continental United States is impure and contaminated by at least animal scat, if not human sewer. The main thing you have to worry about is bacteriological contamination of water. No matter how high up the mountain stream is, don't assume that it is safe to drink, because there are elk and mule deer and bears, and they all crap in the woods. And that runs down into the lakes and streams, and the chances of you, especially nowadays, because everyone is hypersensitive to bacteria because we work so hard and are so successful at removing bacterial contaminants in our life, and we have no natural immunity to that anymore. And so if you get a bacterial infection from bad water or food, yeah, you could die. It's really bad. So you want to make sure and purify your water. So the simplest, without any technology, method is to make a fire. Now you'll need some kind of container. That's why in all of my kits I carry a GI issue canteen cup, which a regular 1-quart canteen fits in. It's got a little handle, and mine's made out of stainless steel from the Vietnam era. And that works perfectly to boil water. If you live in a desertous area, you should probably put up water, because water may not be available in the wild. It falls out of the sky here in Oregon by the great buckets full 6 months out of the year. So bottled water is a short-term solution, but ultimately you need to know how to collect and purify water. So I recommend this thing. If you boil your water, you're going to want to make sure and have a rolling boil go for at least 10 minutes. That may be overkill. Some say 3, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. 10 minutes of boiling, I would feel safe drinking raw sewage. You'll also want to filter it through a t-shirt or a bandana just to get any particles out of it before you boil it. And that filtering process is the same thing that you want to do if you use one of these. Now this particular water filter is the Sawyer Mini. Now once again, I don't sell anything on my page. I don't beg you for Patreon. I don't even have that. God takes care of me and mine. So I'm not worried about money. And I've been demonetized, so if I ever get something from them, it's going to be like 25 cents from YouTube. I don't know. But at any rate, they'll find a way even to demonetize this one. But this is the Sawyer Mini. And this little filter here has absolutely transformed the world. One of the things you'll find interesting about this company is that they've given away hundreds of thousands of these to third world countries, where places where people had to drink out of mud puddles and had to filter raw sewage to find water. And with these, you can drink right out of a mud puddle. Now it says it's good for 100,000 gallons. Now that's assuming that you are studious and careful to pre-filter through cloth to get out of particles, and then use the enclosed syringe. You can't really see it, it's in here, but there's a little plastic syringe that you use to backwash the filter. You'll need to do that every time you use it if you want to get the 100,000 gallons out of it. Once again, with these, when they're not opened and they've never been used, they're fine. You can leave them in the trunk of your car or whatever. If you use one, you will have to protect it from freezing, because once water is introduced and it freezes, then they're no longer going to work for you. The little filters that are made out of polymer are going to break up. There are more expensive filters. This one of the reasons it's transformed the world is it only costs $19.95. Between $19.95 and $25 at your local outdoor store. These are even sold at most Walmarts around here. So yeah, you need to at least have this minimum. I store water as well. I don't do bottled water anymore. I buy the big blue containers and I fill those up, and I have about 35 gallons of water stashed. And of course I have a tank on my van down by the river, so I got my own water supply all the time. Now, so I highly recommend these. I think everyone would recommend those. Let's talk about food for a minute. I'll tell you a quick story. This is going to be a long video. If you're bored, I understand. I don't know if it'll get a lot of views, but this is just my take on things. So when I first started with this back in '93 with preparing, I bought a bunch of MREs, and I actually liked those things back then. They tasted good. They had lots of little treats in them. They had everything you needed in there, and they were kept in a heavy-duty plastic bag. So I don't know, I bought a couple $100 worth of those, and I put them in a giant duffel bag I probably couldn't even pick up now in my old age. And I had it stuffed in a closet in my spare room. And I had a room that was just dedicated to prepping. You know, I had water in there. My shortwave was rigged up with a shortwave antenna, and I had big world maps on the wall and all that kind of stuff. I was into it for a while. And but I started seeing mice around the house, and I'd never had a mouse problem. And I couldn't figure out where they were coming from, you know. And I trap them in the kitchen, and they'd still just keep on coming. It just seemed like this endless supply of mice. And so one day I opened up the door to my prep room, and I went in there to listen to a shortwave broadcast. And at any rate, yeah, the smell of urine hit me, like mouse urine. And I let my nose do the investigative work. And in the closet, I found that my bag looked totally normal. And I opened it up, and as I started pulling them out, and I pulled it away from the wall, I realized that they had tunneled somehow in through the floor of that closet and directly into the bottom of that duffel bag. And there was a mouse city going on inside that bag. And I lost all that food, had to throw it all out. It was just awful. So you're going to want to store your stuff in mouse-proof containers. I personally prefer 5-gallon buckets that are white. Typically, white buckets mean that they're food-grade buckets. So you want to get food-grade buckets so it doesn't leak chemicals from the plastic into your food. So, you know, canned food, you don't need that, obviously, but for anything in a package, like rice or any noodles, anything like that, you're going to want to put it in a mouse-proof container. And now I put mouse poison out in my house and in my storage unit, and it's even in my RV, just in case they want to shimmy up the cable to get to the top and climb in somehow. So, at any rate, later on I changed the way I stored food. I used to think that, you know, and you needed to go out and buy all this long-term storage food. But if you can financially get far enough ahead, you can do what I do. And I try to buy food, in some cases, a year in advance. So I will buy food in great gobs of the food I normally eat. And, you know, you just keep a pantry. You keep the fresh food at the back, and you move up the food as it ages. And doing it that way and keeping an eye on your usage and kind of logically and mathematically calculating everything, you can keep about a 3-month to a 1-year food supply in your home that never goes bad, because you're using it as you buy more. So you just keep buying more to replace what you've used. And actually, to me, that was cheaper than going out and, say, buying a year or 2 years worth of dehydrated long-term 10-year storage food. So those are the basics. I believe everyone ought to have a sharp blade, because that tool is what separated us from the animals. And we take it for granted. We have knives in our kitchen, but, you know, if the grid goes down and the grocery store dries up, that knife may end up being your most valuable tool. So spend some money on it. Mine cost about $200. I showed it off in some of my videos lately. But any good solid knife with a full tang made by a reputable company will serve you well. Before that, always I carried buck knives. So those are the basics. Have a firearm or not, that's up to you. Be a warrior or be a refugee, that's up to you. But everybody's got to eat, everybody's got to drink, and everybody has to have shelter. So I just hope you all stay breathing. Till next time.